The night split open with the sound of slammed doors, echoing like thunder against fragile walls. Naomi clutched her chest, whispering, "Why did you do this to me?" Her voice cracked like broken glass. The rain outside lashed against the windows, mirroring her storm inside. She stumbled across the dimly lit room, her breath uneven, her eyes swollen from tears. Her mother's picture stared back at her from the mantel, silent and condemning. Naomi said, "You told me love would heal. But love has only scarred me deeper." The silence that followed felt louder than screams. A phone buzzed on the table, lighting up with a name she swore she'd never see again. Her hands trembled as she reached for it. The name of Marcus glowed, a shadow from the past. A man whose touch once felt like salvation and sin. She whispered, "No, not you." But her thumb hovered over the screen, torn between fear and longing. Lightning lit her face, her mahogany skin shining with wet trails of grief. The night dared her to answer, dared her to let history repeat itself, dared her to surrender. Naomi sat on the edge of her couch, her arms wrapped tightly around her knees. The storm refused to calm, and neither did her heart. She muttered, "It was supposed to be over, all of it." Her voice cracked in defiance. The buzzing phone tempted her like a demon's whisper. Her mind replayed his voice, smooth and dangerous, a voice that once promised forever, but delivered nothing but betrayal. She pressed her face into her knees, fighting memories that clawed back like ghosts. The smell of old whiskey and cologne haunted her nose. Naomi said, "You broke me, Marcus. You left me bleeding." Yet beneath the fury, an ember of longing burned, defiant, cruel. The storm crashed again, and she raised her head, eyes glistening with fury. "Not again," she whispered, though her shaking hands betrayed her. Her chest rose and fell in heavy bursts, a war inside her body. She wanted to run, yet something in her heart rooted her in place. The storm paused, as if holding its breath, and Naomi rose slowly. Her bare feet pressed against the cold wooden floor, grounding her in unwanted reality. She approached the window, staring into the darkness beyond, where shadows twisted into figures. Her reflection stared back, eyes hollow yet fierce. She whispered, "I am not the girl you left behind." Her body trembled, but there was steel in her tone. She thought of nights when Marcus' arms wrapped around her, a prison of desire she once mistook for safety. The memory burned, and she clenched her fists. The phone still glowed on the table, insistent, unrelenting. Naomi said, "Why now? Why tonight?" Her voice was a fragile thread. Thunder roared in reply, and the reflection of her own face blurred with streaks of rain. Naomi turned away from the window, her chest aching. She walked to the mantel again, her fingers brushing the cold glass frame of her mother's photograph. "Mama, tell me what to do," she whispered, voice breaking. Her mother's smile in the photo seemed both cruel and kind, like an answer she couldn't hear. Naomi dropped her hand, gripping her braids tightly as if to keep from unraveling. The phone buzzed again, louder this time, demanding her attention. She cursed under her breath and screamed, "Leave me alone." Her voice echoed against the empty room. Her knees gave out, and she sank to the floor, sobbing with rage and despair. Yet even there, on the ground, her eyes darted to the phone like a moth to flame. The storm grew quiet, and Naomi's sobs turned to shaky breaths. She sat on the floor, back against the couch, her head tilted back toward the ceiling. The glow of the phone painted her face in soft blue light. She whispered, "If I answer, I lose myself again." Her voice trembled, but her lips curved into a bitter smile. "If I ignore you, I'll wonder forever." Her fingers brushed against the phone, not yet picking it up. The silence in the room became unbearable. Naomi closed her eyes, whispering a single word. "Why?" The storm cracked again outside, almost mocking her hesitation. She stayed frozen, caught between past pain and present temptation, a fragile figure in the grip of a decision that could change everything. Morning light crept through thin curtains, spilling gold across Naomi's tired face. She hadn't slept, her eyes carried the weight of a war waged in silence. She muttered, Every scar has a name, and mine begins with Marcus. She dragged herself from the couch, every step heavy with memory. The kitchen smelled faintly of stale coffee, a cruel reminder of mornings once filled with laughter. Naomi pressed her palm against the counter, grounding herself. "But I survived," she whispered, though her voice cracked on the word. She remembered nights her mother said dignity was more precious than love. Her chest tightened as she poured cold water into a chipped glass. Naomi's heart longed for warmth, for touch, yet the price of love had been too high. She stared at her reflection in the glass, eyes haunted but unbroken. The silence pressed in, daring her to admit she still dreamed of something better. Naomi sat at the small kitchen table, the chipped wood cool beneath her arms. She stared at her journal, its pages filled with scribbles of longing and pain. She opened it, tracing words that read, "I deserve more." Her hand trembled as she wrote, "But what if more never comes?" Her mother's voice echoed in her mind, a memory carved in iron. "Love is a choice, not a chain." Naomi whispered, "I don't even know what real love feels like anymore." The pen slipped from her hand, clattering against the table. She closed her eyes, remembering Marcus' laughter, the way it once felt like sunlight but turned to shadow. Naomi's chest burned with rage and sorrow. She whispered, "I won't let him define me." But tears betrayed her strength. Later that day, Naomi walked through the neighborhood, her steps slow, her eyes scanning familiar streets. Children's laughter rang out, reminding her of innocence long lost. She smiled faintly, though her heart ached. She whispered, "I used to dream right here, beneath that tree." Memories of teenage promises returned, of Marcus telling her the world would be theirs. She shook her head, lips curling bitterly. "Dreams lie," she said softly. Her neighbor, Mrs. Lewis, waved from her porch, her kind smile a balm against Naomi's storm. Naomi forced a smile, whispering, "I'm fine," though her chest told another story. The air smelled of fresh rain, and the world seemed reborn, while she felt stuck in yesterday's pain. Naomi found herself at the old bookstore, its wooden sign faded, but still welcoming. She stepped inside, inhaling the scent of old pages. Books had always been her escape, her sanctuary. She ran her fingers across spines, whispering, "These stories never betray me." The quiet space offered comfort, yet loneliness weighed on her shoulders. She remembered afternoons spent here as a teenager, hiding from chaos at home. The clerk nodded at her, offering silent familiarity. She sat at a corner table with a worn poetry book, the words piercing her soul like confessions. Naomi whispered, "Maybe love is just a story we tell ourselves." But her eyes betrayed longing, searching for proof in ink and paper. As dusk fell, Naomi returned home, the sky painted in hues of violet and gold. She sat on her balcony, knees pulled to her chest, staring at the horizon. The city hummed below, alive with voices and traffic, while she felt suspended in silence. She whispered, "I want to believe love isn't just pain." Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears, her chest rising with defiant breaths. The cool wind brushed her face, carrying scents of night, blooming jasmine. Naomi thought of her mother again, of whispered lessons that dignity mattered above desire. She whispered, "But what if dignity feels like loneliness?" The sun disappeared, leaving her in twilight's embrace, torn between hope and despair. Naomi's heart nearly stopped when she saw him standing across the cafe. Marcus, older now, but still carrying the same magnetic presence that once pulled her in too deep. She whispered to herself, "Why here? Why now?" Her hands trembled as she clutched her coffee cup. He noticed her instantly, his piercing eyes locking on hers with unbearable intensity. The air thickened between them, like the storm she thought had ended. Naomi muttered, "Don't look at me that way." But he was already crossing the room, each step deliberate, confident. Memories crashed like waves against her resolve. The heat of his embrace, the sting of his betrayal. Her pulse raced, her chest rising with shallow breaths. She wanted to run, but her body refused to move. Marcus said softly, "Naomi." Just her name, yet it cracked her armor. Naomi's throat tightened as Marcus slid into the chair across from her, his presence swallowing the air. His cologne carried memories sharp as blades. She whispered, "You shouldn't be here." His eyes softened, but his voice remained firm. "I had to see you, Naomi." She looked away, gripping her cup tighter, as if it might anchor her against the flood of emotions. Rage, longing, shame, they collided inside her chest. "After all this time you think you can just appear?" she hissed, voice low but trembling. Marcus leaned forward, his hand brushing the table, close but not touching hers. "I never stopped thinking about you," he confessed. Her breath hitched, pain rising like fire. She whispered, "Don't you dare lie to me again." The cafe hummed around them, but Naomi felt trapped in a cage of memory. Marcus' gaze bore into her, unrelenting. "I made mistakes," he admitted, his voice a gravel whisper. Naomi's chest tightened. She whispered back, "You destroyed me." Silence settled heavy, as if the world outside had ceased to exist. Marcus exhaled slowly, his eyes flickering with regret. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I came to tell you the truth." Her stomach twisted, torn between fury and fragile hope. Naomi shook her head. Truth," she spat softly. "You wouldn't know truth if it kissed you." Her words sliced, but her eyes betrayed the storm of longing beneath. His jaw clenched, but he didn't look away. Naomi stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor, heads turning in the cafe. Her chest rose and fell with sharp breaths. "You don't get to just walk in and act like nothing happened," she said through clenched teeth. Marcus rose too, his commanding presence drawing eyes, but his voice stayed low. "Naomi, please." His hand hovered, aching to reach her, but he stopped himself. The space between them throbbed with unspoken history. "Whoa." Naomi's eyes burned with tears she refused to release. "You broke me, Marcus, and now you want to fix me with words?" The cafe noise dimmed in her ears, replaced by the pounding of her heartbeat. For a second, the entire room seemed to dissolve, until only the two of them remained, locked in a war of pain and desire. Naomi stormed out of the cafe, the bell above the door ringing like an alarm. Rain had begun to fall again, drenching the street in silver. Marcus followed her outside, his footsteps heavy, determined. "Naomi, wait!" he shouted. She spun around, rain streaking her braids against her face, her eyes blazing. "You don't get to chase me anymore," she cried, her voice cracking. The storm mirrored her fury, lightning splitting the sky above them. Marcus stepped closer, rain soaking his suit, his eyes desperate. "I'm not chasing, I'm fighting," he said. Her heart clenched, words caught in her throat. She whispered, "Fighting for what?" His reply came fierce and raw. "For you." Her breath caught as thunder roared, drowning the silence between them. Naomi slammed her apartment door shut, chest heaving as rain dripped from her braids onto the floor. She leaned against the wall, eyes burning. Marcus' voice echoed outside, muffled by wood and storm. She shouted, "Go away," but silence followed. She dragged herself into the living room, collapsing onto the couch. Her hands shook as she pressed them against her face. The phone on the table buzzed again, but this time it wasn't Marcus. Naomi's eyes widened when she saw the name. Alana. Her best friend. Confusion twisted her gut. She answered, and Alana's voice cracked with urgency. "Naomi, you need to know the truth about Marcus." Naomi froze, words lodged in her throat. "What truth?" she whispered, fear spreading like fire. The silence on the line was heavier than thunder. Alana's voice trembled, each word cutting deeper. "Marcus, he's married, Naomi. He's been married this whole time." Naomi's body went rigid, her breath catching sharp. "No," she whispered, denial shaking her voice. Her hand clutched the phone so tightly her knuckles whitened. Alana continued, her tone heavy with guilt. "I should have told you sooner, but I didn't want to hurt you." Naomi's chest felt like it was splitting open. Her tears fell fast, hot, unstoppable. Memories of Marcus' tender words replayed, now poisoned with betrayal. She shouted, "How could he?" Her voice echoed in the hollow room. Silence fell on the line, leaving her with nothing but the sound of her breaking heart. Naomi dropped the phone onto the floor, the thud echoing like a final blow. Her chest heaved, her sobs ragged and unrelenting. She whispered, "He lied. Every moment was a lie." Her fists pounded against the couch cushion, rage spilling through her grief. Lightning lit the room, revealing her trembling form like a portrait of devastation. She stood suddenly, pacing like a caged animal, her braids whipping with each turn. "I let him back in," she said bitterly, voice breaking. "I let him touch the part of me I swore I'd protect." Her knees weakened, and she collapsed onto the floor, hands clawing at her chest as if she could tear out the pain itself. A knock thundered against the door, pulling Naomi from her spiral. She froze, breath shallow, her heart hammering in terror. Marcus' voice called out, raw and desperate, "Naomi, please, let me explain." Fury surged through her veins. She shouted back, "Explain what? Your wife, your lies." Silence answered, then his voice cracked with anguish. "It's not what you think." Naomi's laugh was bitter, broken. "Don't you dare twist this." Her body shook with rage as she approached the door, fists clenched. She whispered to herself, "This is the end." But her hand lingered on the knob, torn between slamming it shut forever and demanding the truth face to face. Naomi yanked the door open, rain spilling in with Marcus standing there drenched, eyes hollow. She spat, "Say it. Say you've been lying to me all along." He shook his head violently, water dripping from his face. "Yes, I'm married," he confessed, voice breaking, "but it's not what you think. It's over, Naomi. I've been trapped in something I can't escape." Her breath caught, fury clashing with unwanted hope. She whispered, "Trapped doesn't excuse betrayal." His hand reached out, trembling, but she stepped back, eyes blazing. "You don't get to break me twice," she declared. The storm outside raged harder, a mirror of the war inside her chest. Naomi's voice rose like a battle cry as thunder rolled behind Marcus. "You ruined me once, and now you stand here begging for pieces of what you broke." Her fists trembled, but her eyes burned bright with fury. Marcus stepped forward, his drenched frame looming in the doorway. "I never wanted to hurt you," he shouted, desperation breaking through. Naomi's chest rose and fell rapidly, her breath a storm of grief. "Wanting doesn't change what you did," she spat, her words sharp as glass. For a moment, silence carved a canyon between them. Then Marcus whispered, "I still love you." The confession sliced through her defenses, leaving her both trembling and enraged. Naomi shoved Marcus back into the rain, her palms striking his chest with force. "Don't you dare say love to me," she screamed, voice cracking. The storm poured heavier, soaking them both. Marcus steadied himself, his jaw set, eyes fierce. "I can't erase the past, but I'll fight for the future," he said. Naomi's laugh was bitter, sharp. "The future? You've already chained yourself to lies." Her tears mixed with the rain, indistinguishable but relentless. Marcus' hand hovered near her face, trembling with longing, but she stepped back, defiant. Her body shook with rage, but deep inside, her heart betrayed her resolve, thudding wildly with every word he spoke. Marcus grabbed her wrist gently but firmly, his touch sparking memories Naomi wanted to bury. "I left because I thought I could protect you," he said, voice low and raw. Naomi's eyes widened, disbelief shaking her core. "Protect me," she hissed. "You shattered me and called it protection." Marcus' expression twisted with guilt, his broad shoulders sagging under invisible weight. "You were too young," he admitted. "I was already trapped, but I couldn't stop wanting you." Naomi's lips trembled as fury met desire in her chest. "You don't get to turn betrayal into sacrifice," she whispered, her voice thick with pain. Their faces hovered inches apart, breath mingling, storm crackling around them. Naomi wrenched her wrist free, screaming through tears, "You ruined every part of me that believed in love." The street echoed her pain, rain pounding like drums. Marcus staggered back, his hands covering his face. "I never stopped loving you," he shouted, voice breaking like glass. Naomi's chest heaved as fury twisted into grief. Her knees weakened, but she forced herself to stand tall. "Love isn't supposed to break me," she said, her tone a dagger. Marcus dropped his hands, his eyes glistening, raw. "Then let me prove it to you," he pleaded. Naomi turned away, shoulders shaking, torn between slamming the door on him forever or surrendering to the fire still burning between them. Naomi spun back toward him, her face a storm of fury and longing. "Prove it?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "Then why does every part of me feel like ashes when you speak?" Marcus stepped closer, his hand hovering near her cheek. "Because fire leaves scars," he said softly. Their eyes locked, lightning cutting through the darkness, illuminating the war within them. Naomi's breath shook, her lips parting as though to curse or confess. The silence between them crackled with unbearable tension. She whispered, "I hate you for making me still want you." Marcus' jaw clenched, his voice breaking as he answered, "Then want me anyway." Thunder roared, swallowing their words. Naomi stood in the middle of the rain-slicked street, her chest heaving as Marcus' words hung between them like a curse and a promise. The storm softened, the rain falling lighter, but her heart still pounded like thunder. She whispered, "I can't keep bleeding for you." Marcus stepped closer, his eyes pleading. "Then let me stop the bleeding," he said softly, desperation cracking his voice. Naomi shook her head, her braids whipping across her face. "You don't get to fix me," she said, voice trembling. The silence that followed pressed heavy, like a verdict already delivered. She turned, walking toward the faint glow of her apartment, leaving Marcus standing alone in the rain, broken but unyielding. Inside, Naomi collapsed onto her couch, her body drained from rage and sorrow. The silence was suffocating, only broken by the faint hum of city traffic below. She clutched a pillow, whispering, "I'm so tired." Her chest ached, as if the storm still raged inside. She thought of her mother's words again, dignity above desire, and the weight of them pressed on her heart. Tears blurred her vision as she whispered, "But what is dignity without love?" She curled into herself, fighting the wall between pride and longing. Outside her window, Marcus' shadow lingered on the street, a silhouette refusing to disappear. Marcus leaned against the lamppost across the street, his drenched suit clinging to his broad frame. His jaw was tight, his eyes fixed on Naomi's window. He whispered to himself, "I can't lose her again." The street was nearly deserted, the storm reduced to a drizzle, but his presence burned like fire in the night. He thought of the years wasted, the lies that chained him, the life he had built that now felt like a prison. He closed his eyes, whispering, "I'll tear it all down if it means she forgives me." His breath shook as the lamplight cast a halo over his broken figure. A man caught between redemption and ruin. Naomi rose from the couch, her body trembling with indecision. She walked slowly to the window, pressing her hand against the cold glass. Through the blur of raindrops, she saw Marcus' silhouette still standing there. Her throat tightened. She whispered, "Why won't you leave me alone?" Yet part of her heart ached with the answer, because he still loved her. She rested her forehead against the window, tears sliding down her cheeks. "I should hate you," she murmured, "but I don't know how." The city lights flickered below, the world moving on while she remained frozen, in a choice only she could make. At last, Naomi opened the window, letting the cool night air rush in. Her voice cracked as she shouted into the drizzle, "You don't know how much you've broken me." Marcus stepped forward, eyes wide, heart pounding. He shouted back, "Then let me spend the rest of my life fixing it." Naomi's breath caught, tears blurring her vision. She gripped the window frame, torn between slamming it shut or letting him in. "What if I never heal?" she whispered, the words carried into the night. Marcus answered, his voice fierce and raw. Then I'll love you through the wounds. The night fell silent, except for their trembling breaths, as if the city itself was holding its breath for her decision. Naomi gripped the window frame, her voice barely above a whisper. You don't understand, Marcus. Every time I let you in, I lose myself. Her tears fell freely, blending with the rain on her face. Marcus' chest rose and fell as he fought to breathe against the weight of her words. Then let me help you find yourself again, he pleaded. Naomi shook her head, her braids clinging to her damp skin. You can't give me back what you took. The silence between them was unbearable, broken only by the steady drizzle of rain. Her heart ached with the truth she refused to bury. Part of her still loved him. Marcus stepped closer, his voice breaking with urgency. I'll burn down every lie, Naomi. I'll tear apart the life that holds me if it means I can stand beside you. Naomi's breath caught, her body trembling with rage and longing. You should have done that years ago, she whispered, pain thick in her tone. Now all that's left are ashes. Marcus' shoulders sagged, the fight in him dimming under her truth. I thought I was protecting you, he said softly. Naomi closed her eyes, whispering, No, Marcus, you were protecting yourself. The drizzle fell heavier, washing the night in cold sorrow. Naomi pulled back from the window, clutching her chest as though her heart might tear free. I can't do this anymore, she whispered, more to herself than him. Marcus' eyes widened, his hands lifting in helpless desperation. Naomi, please, he shouted, his voice echoing off the wet pavement. Her tears fell harder, her body trembling. Every time I choose you, I lose pieces of me I can't rebuild. Her breath hitched, her resolve sharp as glass. She whispered, I need to save myself even if it means losing you. The words shattered the night, final and unrelenting. Marcus staggered back into the street, his face twisted in agony. His voice cracked as he cried out, I'll never stop loving you. The night swallowed his confession, thunder rolling faintly in the distance. Naomi pressed her back against the wall, sliding down until she sat on the floor, her body shaking with sobs. She whispered into the silence, and I'll never forget you, but I can't forgive you. The city hummed on around them, indifferent to their storm. The love they once clung to had become a wound too deep to heal. Naomi whispered the last words of the night into the dark, her voice trembling with finality. I choose me. She closed the window, shutting out the sound of Marcus' broken pleas. The storm eased to a quiet drizzle, the city falling still. Naomi sat in the silence, her tears finally slowing, her body heavy with both loss and relief. Below, Marcus stood in the rain, his silhouette fading into shadow. Neither spoke again. The world moved forward, but their story ended in fragments of love, pain, and dignity. The final silence was deafening, leaving only one truth lingering like smoke. Love can wound deeper than it heals.